Hello, this is Movie Chronicles. Today, I'm going to explain an American action movie called Transporter 2. Here we go. Back in the past, Frank Martin used to work as a transporter, driving special consignments for special people. But nowadays, he is a normal driver in Miami, Florida. One day, as he's sitting in a parking lot, a girl and her friends try to steal his car. But Frank's car is special and requires a code to start it. The thugs get out of the car and he beats the everlasting crap out of them. Frank then goes to pick up Jack, the son of his employer, the super rich Billings family. Frank takes Jack to the mansion and sends him off with his mother, Audrey Billings. Audrey is a bit stressed out because her husband is a busy senator who does not have time for his family. Frank and Audrey start bonding together. Then, Audrey asks Frank to take Jack to the doctor's appointment tomorrow morning. As they talk, some men can be listening to their conversation. The men belong to a gang led by a man named Gianni Cialini. Gianni has some strange vials that he puts in a safe location. That night, Audrey comes to Frank's home. She's a bit tipsy and tries to seduce him. But Frank resists the temptation and sends her back. Before leaving, Audrey thanks him for respecting her. The next morning, Frank takes Jack to the doctor's office. Unknown to them, Gianni's gang has infiltrated the office and killed the doctors. When Frank and Jack arrive, the woman named Lola pretends to be a nurse and sends Jack in with another gang member, pretending to be the doctor. Frank sees a tattoo on Lola's leg and blood flowing out of a door. So, he realizes that something is wrong. He enters the doctor's office just before the man named Dimitri can inject Jack with a strange yellow liquid. Frank gets into a fight and manages to defeat the two men there. Then, he goes out where Lola shoots at him, but Frank causes a cylinder to explode and escapes with Jack. So, the gang puts a bomb under Frank's car. Lola comes outside and shoots at Frank's car, but he escapes. Gianni tells her to go ahead with Plan B, so Lola shoots at the police. Frank takes Jack home, but just as he's entering, Gianni calls him and says that he has a sniper trained on Jack's forehead. If Frank tries to escape, he will kill Jack. Just then, Lola arrives in a police car. Frank has no choice but to let her in and run away. On the way, Lola shoots at some more police cars. Frank is concerned for Jack's safety, so for now, he lets them abduct Jack. He escapes the police by jumping from one building to another. Senator Jefferson Billings is furious that someone abducted his son. Jefferson thinks that Frank was the kidnapper, but Audrey defends Frank, saying that she trusts him. The intelligence officer says that Frank is an ex-Special Forces and an elite soldier. Elsewhere, Lola takes Frank and Jack to meet with Gianni Cialini. There, Gianni reveals his plans. He calls Jefferson and demands $5 million in 2 hours. If not, he will kill Jack. Then, he tells Frank to leave. Frank is about to do so, but he sees the car bomb in the reflection. So, he quickly drives away. Just as Lola detonates it, Frank goes full aerobics on it and removes it using a hook. Then, he calls the mansion. Jefferson starts screaming at Frank, thinking that he was one of the kidnappers. Frank tries to explain to the intelligence officers that he had nothing to do with it, but they do not believe him. Frank then calls his friend, Inspector Tarconi, who has just arrived from France. Frank and Tarconi have had some adventures in the past. For now, the police track the call and arrest Tarconi. So, Frank calls Audrey and tells her the truth. He is going to save Jack. Frank goes back to the hospital where he finds the yellow injection that Dimitri almost gave Jack. But some detectives arrive. In the scramble, the injection breaks and the liquid is lost. Elsewhere, Jefferson goes to drop the ransom money. Frank then calls Inspector Tarconi. Since Tarconi is also an inspector in France, he is being treated well by the authorities. Frank sends a picture of Dimitri to Tarconi. Tarconi runs it through the ID system. Dimitri is apparently a virologist with an expertise in biological warfare. So, Frank goes to his address. There, he gets into a fight with Dimitri, who tries to escape. Dimitri grabs onto a bus, and Frank chases after him on a jet ski after hijacking it from a woman. He manages to catch up to the bus. There, he injects Dimitri with the same injection. Dimitri is absolutely shocked and runs away. Frank follows. Meanwhile, the police find Jack in a container. Audrey is the first to go to him. Jack is safe and sound. Unknown to them, Gianni and Lola are watching this happy reunion. Apparently, whatever their plan is, it's working. Elsewhere, Frank follows Dimitri to a secret camp. There, he finds lots of patients who are victims to a strange experiment. One of Gianni's men ambushes him, and they get into a fight, but Frank manages to defeat him. Up in the laboratory, Dimitri asks the doctor for the antidote to the virus, but Frank comes in and says that he injected him with water, not the virus. So, Dimitri tries to attack him, and Frank kills him. He then attacks the doctor in the leg and asks about the antidote. The doctor says that Jack will die. The disease spreads through the air, so anyone he breathes on will also die. When Frank asks for the antidote, he throws the 2 vials out the window, and Frank jumps out after them. One of the vials breaks, but Frank manages to save the other one. Back at the Billings mansion, Jack is safe and sound. He does have a small viral fever, but nothing more. Jefferson and Audrey are also showing signs of the viral infection, but the doctor tells them it's a common cold. After Jefferson leaves for some conference, Frank comes in and tells Audrey everything about the virus. Thankfully, he has the antidote, so he injects Jack with it. Jack will be safe, but everyone else who were near him are still at risk. Senator Jefferson actually has a conference with the Drug Enforcement Agency. Now that he himself is infected, he will infect the entire Drug Enforcement Agency just by breathing. Frank realizes that this is Gianni's plan, so he plans to go to Gianni because he must have some more antidotes. As he's leaving, the Secret Service notice him. He gets into a fight with them and manages to leave safely. Meanwhile, Jefferson reaches the conference. Audrey calls him to warn him, but their signal is weak and he does not understand anything. Frank sends Gianni's picture to Tarconi, who runs it and finds the address. Frank steals a taxi to go there. Elsewhere, Audrey and Jefferson collapse from the effects of the virus. Gianni then takes all the antidote and injects it inside himself. He says that it's the best way to transport it. Just then, Frank arrives and the great battle starts. He manages to beat all of Gianni's henchmen one by one, despite being outnumbered. He finally reaches Gianni, but Gianni shows him the empty vial, saying that all the antidote is in his bloodstream, so Frank cannot kill him. Gianni says that he was hired by Colombian drug dealers to get rid of the Drug Enforcement Agency. Just then, Lola arrives and Gianni leaves. Frank and Lola get into a fight, and he manages to kill her as well. He then takes one of Gianni's cars and reaches the airport. Gianni enters his private jet, and Frank follows. Just as the plane takes off, Frank enters by grabbing the landing gear. He tries to take Gianni back, and they get into a fight. In their scuffle, the pilot is killed, and the plane starts spiraling down. Frank finally beats Gianni unconscious just as the plane crashes into the sea. Once underwater, Frank saves Gianni and takes him up to the surface. Sometime later, Audrey and Jefferson are recovering at the hospital and Jack is fine. Frank does not go in and instead sends the flower. As he gets back into his car, a man calls, asking for a transporter. Frank says, "I'm listening," and this is how this action flick ends. For more unique and fascinating movies that you may not even have heard about, click on the videos on your screen. Also, do subscribe, like, and comment. Your one act will make a huge difference to us.